In today's video, we're going to learn the dark Torre attack. Well, this is not the official name, but the idea is that we can use the Torre attack with black. Yeah, how? How can we? Yeah, when they play the Reti or the King's Indian attack, we can use the same idea we learned in the video devoted to the Torre attack against the King's Indian. In case you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you do it. It's a game from Garry Kasparov, a nice masterpiece. And yeah, the idea is to apply the same idea we learned in that game, but now with colors reversed. Yeah, we would be playing as black, and we're going to see how to apply it by analyzing a game by one of the greatest players of the 20th century. I'm talking about Arthur Yusupov. And well, so without further ado, let's get into the game. It's a game against a very well-known opponent, Daniel King, a great commentator from Britain. And Arthur Yusupov plays as black. The game was played in 1994, Bundesliga 1994. So the game starts with g3, d5, bishop g2, knight f6, d3, c6, and when white's knight reaches f3, Yusupov plays bishop g4. This is the Torre attack with colors reversed. A normal move order might be, rather than g3, knight f3, very typical, d5, and against g3 we can play bishop g4, bishop g2, and c6. We're not worried about knight e5, as we may drop back and later on play knight d7, getting rid of this active knight. So knight f3, d5, g3, bishop g4, bishop g2, c6, castle, knight d7, and we're going to transpose to the game after d3, knight f6. So let's go back, g3, d5, bishop d2, knight f6, d3, c6. Yeah, this is the same idea we learned in the Kasparov game. We're using this pawn to reinforce d5 and to create a barrier against white's bishop. So knight f3, bishop g4. Yeah, we don't want this bishop to be passive on c8, and by placing it on g4 we are provoking h3 and g4. That usually ends up weakening white's king side, giving us a plan to bring our pieces there to the weakened king side. So after knight bd2, the game continues with knight bd7, h3, bishop h5, castle, and now what? Yeah, we occupy the center. Yeah, e5. Now we have this very beautiful pair of pawns occupying the center. And of course, white is going to do something about it by playing e4. What we learn in the game played by Kasparov? Yeah, what we learn is that we must trade. Okay, not must, but we are interested in trading, as this bishop is going to be restricted. D takes e4 and bishop e7. And against queen e1, yeah, now he unpins. This knight is free to move. Black castle, Yusupov castle, and knight h4. Yeah, the knight is ready to go bishop hunting. Rook e8, knight f5, and bishop f8. This is really straightforward. And there's a very nice point. We are opposing our rook to white's queen, so f4 is always more difficult to play, as the queen would be exposed. Now white played a4, knight c5. Yeah, this pawn is really well defended, so we can start maneuvering with our minor pieces, bringing our minor pieces to the positions that Kasparov showed us in his game against Martinovic. So after knight c4, b5. Well, this is a normal reaction. White was getting really active here. Yeah, we're getting rid of this knight. Our pieces are getting active. A takes b5, a takes b5, and knight a5. A suspicious move. I don't like it. I guess playing back to e3 is not possible because of the e pawn. d2 is sad as the knight came from there, so we can understand b5 as a way to punish knight c4. So a takes b5, a takes b5, knight a5, and yeah, knight e6. Now the c file is clear for our pieces, and bishop e3 is answered with queen c7. Knight c6 gives white absolutely nothing because of queen c7, and it has to move again. So bishop e3 seems a normal move, but queen c7 puts pressure on c2. And this is a really tough position for white. Yeah, how to continue? I guess c3 might be the most normal move, but now d3 is weakened, and our knight will be relocated to d3, trying to occupy this square and also put pressure. So against queen c7, Daniel King played queen b1, an ugly move. Yeah, he brought his queen to the queen side, and yeah, it's hard to explain. He didn't want to weaken d3, I guess. The game continued with knight c5, and black had a very nice opportunity here. By playing knight f4, he could be really on top. As the knight cannot be taken, g takes f4, e takes f4, f3 is coming, the e pawn is falling, and the king will be terribly exposed. So bishop d4, knight takes e4, and well, the position is simply beyond repair. Knight c5 was played, putting pressure here, f3, and bishop g6. Now he's trying to capture on f5 and gain d5 for the knight, also to capture and being able to push the e pawn, as white's queen is really bad placed. Knight h4, he is not allowing it, and playing g4 is not the solution, we already know. Knight e6, and f4 is only defended by the bishop, so our plan is to play bishop c5 and get f4 for our knights. Well, knight h4 and knight a4, a5 is hanging, so knight b3. And now, how to continue, how to improve black's position? Yeah, I mean, the position is already very good, but how to keep bringing the pieces to the game? This one is the one that is not playing, so I mean, playing rook ac8 might be absolutely normal, but he decided to play rook e8. I guess that the first idea might be to answer c3 with knight d5, is it? I'm not sure. Yeah, the idea is, of course, e takes d5 cannot be played because of bishop takes b1, and knight takes g6, trying to get rid of this bishop, knight takes e3, and it seems okay. And in the case of the bishop going away, we can even simply drop back to b6 and then get to c4, and both knights will be putting pressure on b2, so it seems really good. Okay, after rook e d8, that's a remarkable move because of the rook on a8. Would have been more normal, apparently, but then the rook is doing absolutely nothing. So yeah, we can understand that rook e d8 is stronger, as this rook is still having the opportunity to be placed on c8 or to stay on where it is to push the pawn. Okay, the game continued with knight takes g6, h takes g6, c3. Well, finally, white's queen improved a little bit, but still is tied to the defense of the b pawn. How to improve? Yeah, this is a really interesting position. Yeah, black is doing better, but yeah, we have to find a way to put more pressure on white. Well, Yusupov played knight d7. Yeah, this knight is not doing any particular thing here, so coming to d7 gives it a couple of opportunities, a couple of roads for the knight, c5 or knight b6, as we mentioned before, to land at c4. Queen c2, yeah, finally those rooks are connected. white's position seemed solid, but after knight db6, yeah, we can see that black's position is really nice. Knight c4 is coming, and it's striking how white's bishop pair is doing absolutely nothing. This is the unopposed bishop, and it's playing a very passive role, so it's only defending the king side. You cannot expect this bishop pair to play an active role unless you somehow open the scope of this bishop with a move like f4, but I think is too optimistic, as the knight could reach c4, attacking the bishop and attacking b2. The game continued with rook a e1, knight c4, bishop c1, and it seems white's position is well defended, but the reality is quite different. a5, and it's nice to see how our knights are completely tying up white's position, so white's pieces. So after king h1, the game was decided by knight takes b2. Yeah, this is a very nice idea. Bishop takes b2, and now a4, forcing the knight away, and the rook is coming to d2. So this is simply something that cannot be allowed. Bishop c1, defending d2, a takes b3, queen takes b3, and yeah, the material parity is still in the board, but we can see that every one of our pieces is better than white's, and white's king is open, and you can see a second rank that is weakened, and this is really important as our rooks are ready to get into white's position. Yusupov took advantage of these facts and played knight d2. Yeah, a simple way to force bishop d2, and our rook is simply there. We are ready to occupy the second rank. Of course, queen takes b5 is losing right away to a2, rook g1, and bishop c5. There's no doubt that we're going to win the game. Rook d1 was the game. Yusupov played rook a, a2 again. Rook takes d2, rook takes d2, and white's position is desperate almost. We're simply trying to do something like queen c5 or rook d3 and get to e3 or f2. Yeah, I mean, combining the pressure on the c pawn and the pressure on the weakened king, and this is too much for white. So the game continues with f4, e takes f4, and e5. Well, he was desperate. I guess recapturing would have been a more normal approach, but queen c6 is really depressing, as now e4 is pinned, cannot move because of queen takes d2, checkmate. And sometimes we're playing rook takes g2 and queen takes e4, or sometimes even rook d3 attacking the c pawn. And this pawn is also going to be weakened with bishop d6. There are several ways, or bishop c5 and bishop e3. There are several ways to increase the pressure on white's position. So Daniel King got desperate and played for e6. Well, he's trying to get a counterplay, and we cannot blame him. F takes g3, e6. Yeah, he seems to be doing okay, but the reality is that after queen e5, yeah, the queen gets centralized and approaches e2 without fearing e takes f7, king h7, and well, things are really desperate for white now. Queen e2 is coming, so I don't know, it's really difficult to say something. Queen b1 and rook takes g2 was the end, as king takes g2, queen e2. The king cannot go back because of queen h2, checkmate. King takes g3, bishop d6, and game over. King h4 is answered by queen h5, checkmate, and rook f4 is answered by queen e3, and that's it. I hope you like the idea of playing the Torre attack against the Reti. That's the idea. Knight f3, d5, g3, bishop g4, and well, we are going to bring our pawn to c6 to create a barrier against white's light square bishop, just like in the Torre attack in the King's Indian. And later on, we're bringing our knights to, well, first of all, control e5, and yeah, to create a normal development, d3, knight f6. So there are some remaining things to be mentioned. Of course, when we play knight d7, white may play d4. c4 can also be taken into account. And yeah, this is something that I have to talk about it, but in a future video. So by now, thank you for your attention and see you next time. Goodbye.